everybody, it's Joe from the Strange Voyage Files. It is August 5th, 2026, and see, I got a new sign, Def Leppard sign. Got a Dio sign that was in another video, Kiss sign, that are illuminated, and I figured, well, why don't we do a Def Leppard video? And let's do something that has been debated by the hardcore Def Leppard fans. Which is better? The debut, On Through the Night, or the follow-up, High and Dry? These two albums represent whether you want to call them the Pete Willis, even though Pete Willis was on Pyromania, the Pete Willis era, the NWOBHM era, the metal era of Def Leppard, and the era that Joe Elliott, I'm going to do it again. You know what I'm going to say. When the book of rock is written, I want to get as closest to the very sounds as the Beatles as possible. Well, here's the thing, Joe. If you would have kept doing things like this, that would have happened. But no. Songs from the Sparkle Lounge and Diamond Star Halos. That's really going to do it. They did. Guys, Hair Nation, it wasn't a week dedicated to that Diamond Star Halos horrible album. Like, it was nonstop. There was one where they were playing live that they kept on, of new songs that they kept on rebroadcasting. I don't know how much Def Leppard must have spent to have them promote that album, and it went nowhere. If you do another album like this, like Phil has said so many times, even though Phil wasn't on these albums, he would be more than happy to do an album like this. So would Sav, but Joe doesn't. Anyway, Def Leppard helps usher into NWOBHM, much to Joe's chagrin. And does so with an album that took a lot of time for a lot of people to really like. Still, as I watch people's rankings, this album will be low on the chart, and I don't get it. It's not as polished, and I think that's great. I love that this isn't as polished. I love that the first Iron Maiden album isn't as polished. I love that Kill 'Em All isn't as polished. But this one, to a lot of people who are more the Hysteria, Pyromania fans, they just don't get this album. This one, for people like that, usually goes higher. But to the hardcore metal fans and the real deep Def Leppard fans, these two are usually number 1 and 2. Could be either way. Starting with the first one, we're going to go off tracks and talk a little bit about it, and then we'll say which one is better. Rock Brigade is an awesome start off to that song, to this album. I remember listening to this album for the first few times and just being blown away by Rock Brigade. It was a song I would listen to over and over and over. I love that song. Hello America is great. And they got a lot of backlash for Hello America in England. And it was almost a beginning of a nail in the coffin in England, because they were seen as the British band who wanted to be American. That did not go over well with people in the United Kingdom. Sorrow is a Woman is great. It Could Be You and Satellite, I think, are phenomenal deep tracks. When the Walls Come Tumbling Down is good. I don't think it's a great song, but it's a good song. There's nothing on here that's bad. Wasted rules. Rock Soft rules. It Don't Matter is so phenomenal. Answer to the Master is great. Overture is great. Again, for me, the weakest song on the album is When the Walls Come Tumbling Down. But, I mean, look at these guys. And they're teenagers. Like, I think Rick Allen is like 14, 15 years old. And I don't even think Pete Willis is 18 at this point. I mean, they're babies on this album. Then comes this one, which the cover was controversial again in the United Kingdom, and I believe in some of Europe. And if I remember correctly, this Swimmer, there are some versions across the pond where they had to do a thing where it was all in a whole red jumpsuit or something like that. But I mean, oh my God, what can you even say? Let It Go, High and Dry, You Got Me Running. The only song on this one is No No No, which I think is okay. Mirror Mirror, Look Into My Eyes, and a lot of people agree with this, is the best Def Leppard song. It is so unique. It is so heavy. It is so morose, so haunting. It's, oh my God. Another hit and run, Lady Strange, On Through the Night, which again, me, like a lot of other people, thought it was a leftover song from this album, and it's not. And Bringing On the Heartbreak. Great. I mean, just switch 625. And again, this is where they meet Mutt Lange. And part of the reason they move away from this is because Mutt Lange wanted them to make the hard rock heavy metal Thriller, which they did with Pyromania because it was behind Thriller forever. Which one is better? I mean, it's High and Dry by a hair. By an absolute hair. But my God, this album is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I've said it forever, Def Leppard died with Steve Clark. One of the most underrated guitar players of all time. It makes me sick that there are other guitar players, I'm not going to go into it because people get really upset, are immortalized, that we've lost, and we shouldn't have lost anybody on that. It's not what I'm saying. But Steve Clark is just forgotten. He was an unbelievable guitar player and an unbelievable songwriter. And Pete Willis shines on these two as well. I mean, it's not the same band. This is not really the exact same band as the Pyromania. This is not the same band as the Hysteria Def Leppard. I still love Hysteria and I still love Adrenalize. But it's not really, it's a different section, it's a different form of this band. And the bridge to that is Steve Clark. Once Steve gone, this is not Def Leppard anymore. What we have now is absolutely not Def Leppard. I don't know what they are. They call yourself Slain. Do what Black Sabbath had to do and call themselves Heaven and Hell. Just stop calling yourselves Def Leppard. Be Slain, or be Euphoria, or whatever you want to be. But my God, you are not this band. And I know Joe doesn't want to be this band. But you're also not the Pyromania or Hysteria band either. You know, which I knew was never going to happen. I've said it a million times. I'm not a fan of Viv in this band at all. It's not really a knock on Vivian, but I'm just not a fan of him. I was devastated because he was on a short list. And I remember there was a lot of talk of who was gonna replace Steve Clark. Adrian Smith was in that mix too, if you remember. There were some, maybe Pete Willis, but no. Joe threw him out of the band because, not just because of his drinking, but because Pete Willis was a threat to Joe's dominance in the band. But I had hoped, which I knew wasn't going to happen, they bring Pete back. I think it would be in Def Leppard's best interest, but again, out of pride, Joe will never let it happen, to have Pete write at least some stuff for the new album. Because they say they're working on another album. Am I going to buy it? Yes. Why? Because there is something in me that is hoping that they're going to say, look, we're going to write a Def Leppard album. You guys are not Sweet. You're not David Bowie. You are not these bands that you think that you are from the 70s. That album, yeah, with the covers from all these bands you love, tanked. This is why. And I rail on Def Leppard. I really do. And I rail on them because I feel, as so many others do, they turn their back on us. I don't want to say spit in our face, because that's pretty, but they just blatantly said, you don't matter. It don't matter to all of us. But my two phenomenal albums. Again, a lot of people that think this album isn't good. I don't get it. I mean, I'm not going to argue because, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like No Prayer for the Dying, and I love it. I don't think this is a rose-colored glasses album because the people who always loved early Def Leppard always loved this album. So this one does not fall in the rose-colored glasses. Everybody always, who was a real metal and in Def Leppard, loved this album. But what do you think? Which one is better, On Through the Night or High and Dry? Let me know, and all that fun stuff, all that type of stuff, put it in the comments. I will see ya.